Welcome to Journeys of Empowerment, where real stories, raw truth and powerful shifts come to life. I'm 𝗪𝗁 𝗪𝗲, and around here, we don't do small talk. We spark transformation. Let's go! Before we dive in, here's something that might just change the way you lead. Still trying to motivate people to change? Stop. That's the problem. 𝗪𝗵𝗃 flips the script with a method that actually works. No gimmicks, no fluff. In the awareness workshop you'll learn why most change efforts crash, how to build behavior that sticks, and what it takes to lead a team that owns it. Change shouldn't drain you, it should drive you. Dare to lead different? Visit 𝗪𝗵𝗃.nl. What if the bravest thing you ever do is simply be yourself? In this episode I speak with Emily van Putten, founder of SheUnfolds, speaker, activist and tech professional, whose deeply personal journey of gender transition is as raw as it is radiant. From growing up in disguise to discovering truth through drag, Emily's path is powerful reflection on identity, resilience and the quiet strength it takes to live your truth, no matter the cost. We explore what it means to transition with heart, not just hormones, how support systems can either wound or heal, and why she's channeling her story into children's book and a retreat for women in tech. This is a story of becoming layer by layer, truth by truth. Lean in, this one speaks straight to the soul.
It's the jingle I can't hear.
This is the jingle you can't hear. Welcome, Emily. I'm so glad that you're here. And after a brief introduction, of course, which I've recorded, and now the big question is, how can we get to know you, who you are as a person and your journey? So let's start with, let's do it differently than normally. What is one big dream, personally, you have for the future?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I have so many dreams, and I'm trying to... one dream I have is just being fully myself. And I'm trying to be fully myself, but in today's world, that is really hard and a challenge, and I think it's for everyone. And I hope someday, I'm now in the middle of my journey, which we'll probably discuss during this conversation.
Yes, we will, for sure.
I'm clearly visible in this world at this moment in my process, and I hope at some moment being trans will always be a part of my identity, but I hope at some moment that I can't just live without it's the primary aspect of my identity for the outer world.
Well, we right away start deep, right?
Yeah, we do.
It is. And so my question for now is, how do you identify yourself?
I identify as a woman.
As a woman. And as a transgender woman or as a woman?
For me, it doesn't matter. It's how you're born and the municipality you're registered. But for me, it's identical. It's about your gender identity, and my gender identity, I'm feeling a woman.
Beautiful, beautiful. So welcome today. And if we go to, let's say, let's start right away at the beginning of your life. Born?
Where I was born.
Yes.
I was born in Leiden-Dorp. It's a city next to Leiden in South Holland of the Netherlands.
And you were born as a boy.
Yeah. Or basically they thought I was a boy.
They thought, that's an interesting one. They thought he was a boy. And was it already for you then already clear that you feel more feminine than...
No, at that moment in time, it's when you read literature, it's about the age of 7 that children are not that much aware of differences between boys and girls, basically. But At the moment, I didn't know exactly how I felt, but looking back at that moment in time, there are some moments that are notable for me. Looking back from here, but I'm being raised as a boy. I did all things like football, things with computers, all kinds of things that we now, which are, from a society perspective, are linked to how a boy should behave.
How a boy should behave.
And boys don't cry. No emotions. Career is really important. Always be looking for the next step. That's, of course, not only related to boys, but that is how I'm being raised, being very rational. So but I had basically no touch with my feelings until very much later in my life.
So while growing up, at what point did you feel, okay, hey, but the world is expecting sort of behavior and the way I act and the way I behave? And at what moment you felt that for the first moment it was conflicting internally?
Well, that's an interesting one, because it's a process, of course. And it was for me not that clear that I was feeling like a woman at first. I've gone through a large period of my life. It's almost 8 years going through depression. It was really intense, had really much impact on my life. While most of my friends, but especially at work, they didn't know, because I hid it, terrified that it might have impact on me from a career perspective. And I was raised that career is number one in your life, so I do not dare to share that kind of vulnerable topics with my coworkers. I was suicidal for several years at the end of the last years of the depression. And it was a certain moment when I thought that this year is the last year I'm going to experience, and I'm not going to make it to next New Year's Eve. For your imagination, normally when you have New Year's Eve, we all have our drinks, fireworks, looking ahead on the new year. What are your resolutions? And I thought, I don't have any resolutions. The only thing I want is this being over. And with this, I mean life. Because it was really intense. And I can still memorize this situation really well. And for some reason, I may in the weeks and months after that New Year's Eve moment, I changed several things in how I'm behaving, how I see the world, that had an impact on me unintentionally, but opened the space in my heart, my mind, for the emotional stuff I hadn't get a hold of that of those emotions in all my life almost, and that opened the door for me to starting initially with drag. It started with drag, and I think that was the first moment experimenting with feminine stuff in this world, and it was really, really great.
Yeah, I can see that right away. You're smiling, you're
absolutely
beaming energy. But may I ask a question about a specific moment in time where you thought next year there will probably, as far as I feel it right now, in my own words.
Yeah, that's right.
There will be no next year.
Yeah, of course. Feel free.
And that's really heavy. Really heavy.
It is, because now I'm talking about this from almost a third person perspective. But that was my life, or basically the ending of my life, I thought at that moment. So feel absolutely free to better understand it.
I'm trying to grasp and trying to almost get back to that moment with you. And what specifically helped you to ultimately, luckily you didn't, decide to take your life?
I think at the basis that were the steps I took in my life. I will shortly tell them after this moment.
Yes.
That I took, that opened the door to my emotions, and getting in touch with my emotions taught me so much more about my identity. But those things I did were basically when you are working, in most cases you are trying to celebrate your victories. But in many occurrences I noted that it's not a dot after this promotion or success. It's always a comma, and already looking forward to the next step. So my whole life, while I was earning serious money, that was great. I had a perfect life in terms of financials. I was never satisfied, because you're always looking for the next result. And at some moment, I was thinking about it and noticed that the people around me that basically forced me implicitly to focus on getting those results over and over again. I was making more money than those people around me, but still they were trying to push me for this next promotion. And for who I'm doing this? For my parents? Or this is my life? I'm a perfect life. No, not from the emotional perspective, but from
the outside and from materialistically. And
and besides that, I'm working in the tech industry, and I had a lot of gadgets, but I bought a gadget because it was great, it was I had fun, but in 2 weeks, all those stuff ended up in the closet or in the bin or somewhere. I wouldn't touch it anymore. So it was really a short period of luck that all those tools and gadgets gave me. And so I also thought that maybe let's focus more on experiences, enriching my life with moments to memorize, instead of just all those stuff that end up in the closet and is expensive as well.
Yeah, of course, and that's interesting. You mentioned about achievement, and what I take out of it is it was less about fulfillment and all about achievement.
Absolutely.
And that's when I was researching you. That's on the one hand, you see you were, in Dutch we say a strever. So you see all the accomplishments, you see all the certificates, you see all the, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, you see the real sensitive, in touch with your feelings.
Yeah, and this is the switch. That's a good point that you were telling, is that in the past I got a lot of tech-related certifications, and when I decided to go for a certain area, for example, cybersecurity, I was not going for the low-hanging associate degree stuff. I was looking what is the best title in the market, and some were really intense and long journeys and extreme exams, but this was always my goal, to get those well-known, top-noted accreditations in the market. And that is what you see on my profile from a more technical and career perspective. But during my journey, that is more related to identity. This is the other thing that is basically describing the person you're now talking with, but hasn't always been like that.
And can we say the achievement was more on your path, what you are doing, and what we can read about what you believe is more who you are as a person?
Yeah, absolutely. But the last one changes, of course, over time, especially in my personal journey.
Yeah. And back to the point that you made. It sounds also, and maybe, do you think it maybe even helped that the high obligations, expectations, and opinions of others helped you in a sort of way to understand, yes, but this I don't want anymore? Because if there were lower expectations from the outside, maybe the internal conflict was less became less severe. Do you?
Yeah, and I know what you mean, and I think in a certain way, especially my racing was covering all of what I did in life, while there was deeply inside something not explicitly new, but I know it's somewhere, because when looking back, there was a moment in time. I'm not religious at this moment, but I'm being raised Catholic. I really know this moment in my room at home while being, I don't know how old I was, but let's say 6, 7, 8 years old. And I was looking to the moon and asking God to be a girl. And that is something I still remember. And that is, I think, in the phase that you're not that much focused on career yet, because you're so young. But at a certain moment, all the pressures, expectations from parents, society, get so much effect of what you're doing, that all these relations with your emotions are covered, that you really, in essence, don't know anymore who you are. You're just working on autopilot until that moment comes that it doesn't work for you anymore for some reason, and that was my depression. But I think at to answer your question more detailed, that how I'm being raised had impact on me for achieving certain results. And I'm pretty sure that without those goals being set, both explicitly but also implicitly, I wouldn't be at this point from a career perspective. But I actually don't know where I would have ended up then, because I'm making a great living. So I have a great house with the cats, a dog, with my wife. But in the end, it's all material. And perhaps I would have had a perfect life just at an apartment somewhere with 40 square meters. I don't know. That's just how life went in the end.
No, we never know, and it's a question. It's not an easy one to answer, but I can imagine that what helped me understand more about my identity struggles with what I had was the conflict of what I thought the world was expecting of me, and what I thought that would fulfill me more. And so there was an external, I think, a assumed external, because it's also assuming, right? It's not always that it is like it is. It's all, if I'm being critical about myself, it's of course also what I assume the world expect from me.
Yeah.
But it helped me because I was like, no, I don't want it anymore. And I was 40 and I was living quite a luxury life, and I was married, and I was like, but I'm living the life I don't care anymore about. I'm married. I'm in a marriage I don't want anymore. But all the expectations, and for me, it helped me to become at the point, okay, I don't know what, but this life
is not working for you.
It is not working for me. And also the whole thought about this is me in terms of identity.
Yeah, but what you're saying looks really minor in terms of impact, but it's really a bold statement. Dare to change the way you're living, you're experiencing this world. And I think that many people are living according to those expectations, and don't dare to make this change to live more authentically and according to their own values.
Drag.
Yeah.
That was, and was that an overnight thing, or was it?
It was not that long. At a certain moment, I thought I saw something on TV in drag, and while my wife, 3 years before that moment, we were in Germany, and there was a Christmas market with drag queens, and she back then already said, this is really something for you. It's feminine, it's outgoing, everything. And at that moment I thought, I don't know if there's something wrong with her, but that's no. But 3 years after that moment, I was watching 𝗪𝗵, Belgium.
Yeah.
And there was a moment there on during Pride with an objective with drag. And I thought, that's interesting. Let's dive into that. How it's working, and etc. What is the aim of drag? How I'm gonna start it? And 1.5 months later, I subscribed for a drag makeup workshop. It's one of the well-known Dutch drag queens, 𝗪𝗪𝗃 𝗪𝗲, which is also in Make Up Your Mind, one of the judges. Mm-hmm. And it was a 6-hour drag.
Oh wow!
6 hours. It's really intense. While up to that moment, I haven't done anything with makeup, so I'm not experienced at all, and this was next level. It's not just an eyeshadow and an eyeliner. It's about hiding your eyebrows and placing them somewhere else on your face, and it's with all those TV grade makeup. It's really thick, and don't approach me within 1 meter, because you will see
the proof of it. All around.
Yeah, but that was really great. I really loved it, but it was, while drag is, for most that are in drag, is something as a hobby, doing during evenings or the weekend perhaps, but for me it was more. And while I didn't notice yet, my wife, but also a really good friend of mine, noticed this is more than just a hobby. This has some relation with your identity. It's going through your mind all day.
And to be clear, at that moment you were identifying yourself as a man.
Yeah, absolutely, straight man.
Until then, straight man, and fascinating and beautiful also that the encouragement came out of your wife, that she encouraged it also. I love to hear that.
Yeah, but absolutely. She's really my number one supporter in this personal journey. But there was a moment while I was being experimenting with drag, basically.
Yeah.
That she, but also that friend of mine said, next year you want to have breast implants. And then, breast implants? Are you crazy? Why? Jack, just a hobby. But looking back now, I know where both of them were coming from. But
where were they coming from then?
Because I saw that this was something related to my identity and that I liked it so much.
Yeah.
All those feminine things I'm not expected to wear from a society perspective. It's going against many gender norms.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, they saw what was coming ahead while I didn't know at the time.
They saw it and also encouraged it.
Yeah.
And embrace and helping you to embrace or
but not
figure it out. Right?
Yeah, but not explicitly at this moment. It was until a couple of months later. We were going on holiday at the sunny island of Mallorca. Yeah, and where the sun is, there are the swimming suits, the dresses. You're really, how could I say it? Femininity is everywhere, and it was really intense. Well, I was heading towards a holiday just for relaxation, enjoying the sun, swimming, etc. It was really a moment of many conversations with my wife. Tears, because I saw all those people around me that were dressed and behaving the way I felt, but I wasn't. So it was really painful. For your understanding, I'm raised with everything that is different is wrong, basically. So in terms of religion, from a racial perspective, all kinds of angles. And so at some moment during this holiday, I knew deeply inside was feeling like a woman, but how to say this while being raised. I've been raised that trans people are wrong. So I had basically an opinion about myself. So
conflicting.
Yeah, it was really conflicting, absolutely. And I didn't know how to deal with it, but luckily my wife, which was on this holiday as well, helped me to, in the end, take those words in my own mouth, to tell myself I'm being trans. Well, at the moment I didn't know what was coming ahead after this moment, of course. But it was the first step, acknowledging to myself who I felt like.
When you say help, how did she help? How did she help you to say and accept and allow those words to sink in?
I think the many conversations we had. She is, well, I am raised more from a rational side of things, while she's more in the emotional side. And that really helped in the conversation we had. And also, we can better know how things are and then look at what is the next step instead of just hiding it. And it was combined also with the feelings, the experiences of the New Year's Eve moment that were not that long ago. I will say that when you're changing life that for the better, you hope that it is something minor, like a sport, playing a sport that helped you in your life. But it's really easy to embrace. But once I knew that this topic was withholding me for being happy, I,
100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 1
was basically not forced. It's not forced, not the right word, but I felt like, let's embrace this, my identity, whatever it means. But because without embracing it, I would be gone in months, perhaps a bit longer. But then this is not my world. So I had an option, but hadn't.
What feelings did you have to deal with?
Sorry?
What kind of feelings did you have to deal with within yourself? The reason why I'm asking is that I can imagine it will resonate with people, and because you were so open about it, and of course we had a pre-conversation, so I am privileged to ask a lot of questions, which are obviously also for me not that comfortable, but me being curious and really trying to, really intrinsic motivated to try to understand what you went through, and also share that with a broader audience, and maybe people will it will resonate with some who had the same kind of struggle feelings right now. And but what were the feelings for you where you had to deal with, because it isn't a switch. We can't switch from no and all the expectations, obligations and whatever, and then all of a sudden switch, I accept, and yes, let's embrace. That doesn't work at all.
No, at some moment you hope that it works like that, just changing overnight 180 degrees in the other direction. But it does not work like that, because you need to get comfortable with yourself, with the outer world, trying to determine, for example, from a clothing perspective, how does this look like? What do I like? I didn't have the luxury of puberty to experiment with glittery pink clothing. So the thing that was the most impactful for me, and I think that is not just at the starter of your gender transition, but has still some impact on me while I'm feeling more comfortable with it, are the expectations of the other world. What will they think when they see something? I was thinking about speaking about myself in something in instead of somebody. Noticeable.
Yeah.
What is walking on the streets?
What is working on the street? That's already a profound one.
Yeah, and at that moment, I was just at the starter. I was the farthest away, and this is of course a bit after the holiday at Mallorca, but just let's get a bit back. What you can see normally, and it's just not one journey for trans persons. But what you see normally is that most people just start with the medical stuff, getting in touch with the doctor and all the mental tests, etc. And when they start hormones, they make the social transition. So the things, the streets and the people will see.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I said to myself, I will do everything within my power to start with this transition. So I first started with clothing and makeup and anything that is visible for the outer world. Even starting with the silicone, not implants, but prostheses. Because at the time I was hormone, so I hadn't got any breast growing. And also I noticed, it's funny, that at some moment I hadn't got these prostheses yet. And I was trying on some clothing, and I noticed they're not looking the way I was expecting them to look like, because there was something missing. So for overnight, I had breasts. They were fake, of course, but there was some. I think in this process, I was experimenting with clothing.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things I'm liking? And I did this with good friends of mine. And that's great that you had the luxury of changing certain, trying on certain things in a private environment.
Yes, not getting judged.
Not getting judged, having the conversations with them about that. How are they feeling with me? They are looking like that. But to get her, I need to go in the car. My neighbors didn't know anything about that, luckily. But I was dressed in my female clothes, and I need to get in the car without my neighbors noticing. And that were absolutely terrifying moments.
I can imagine.
Opening the door, looking if there was nobody on the street.
If you think nobody can see you, and then
absolutely
jump in the car.
And then get a run, jump in that car. It's, you get an idea.
I get an idea.
And that is, looking back now, and when I see photos, I see someone with short hair, with beard grow. Even when it's shaved, it's still visible.
Yeah.
You have a certain bluish shadow on your face. And I can laugh about that, but it was really terrifying at the moment. And it's on all those moments, the first moment going to work in your new clothing, or basically for the outer world is your new clothing. It's absolutely terrifying. And I think that's for everything that you change in your life that is so noticeable that I was hyper visible.
Yeah.
I cannot
exposed.
Yeah, I was fully absolutely exposed, but I cannot hide it. It's a process.
No. Now you couldn't stop it anymore. Also, you wouldn't stop it.
No, and I think it's now 2.5 years ago that I the last in October 2.5 years ago that's the last time I touched my men's wardrobe. And after that, it's now in boxes or even gone.
Is it a relief that it's gone, and now how does it feel?
It's a relief that I'm not changing during the day anymore. Switching when the camera. I'm working in IT, so when the camera was on, I was a man. When the cameras were off, I was a woman, and that was it was demanding a lot.
Exhausting.
But also for the people, especially my wife around me, it was really confusing. What are you? Are you a man? Are you a woman? So it really helped me that I have just one wardrobe. And in some ways it's also painful to see, or people are referring to a certain period in your life. It's not a great situation. I cannot be on the one hand the man and on the other hand the woman. It's just you have the luxury, but I'm not identifying non-binary. So I chose to embrace this, but you're also letting go of some things within your life, from some luxuries as a man, because
for instance
on the streets, and when you're walking through the street as a man, people will step aside to let you pass. And as a man, you probably are not noticing.
Think that's normal?
Yeah, I think that's normal.
Almost entitlement.
Yeah, but now, and I'm still in the midst of the process, I notice that people are perceiving me differently, that they're more handling me like every other woman out there. and that people are not stepping aside anymore in most cases. And on one hand, is that something that is confirming that they see me, how I'm feeling like. But on the other hand, it makes some impact, noticing invisible behaviors in society that have an impact on everyone. And it's not only from a man to versus a woman perspective, but also vice versa.
Let's go back a little bit to the vacation, the holiday.
Yeah.
And the moment that you went for the first time to work. Oh. And everything in between. So the dressing part with friends, so in a safe environment. How much time between it's approximately, yeah, of course, but how much time between the holiday and all the conversations with your wife and the first time going to, how much time was there in between?
Just a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
I think the holiday was in June somewhere. And when I changed my clothing to work, and I can tell more about that because it was just not something I was doing overnight.
No.
But it was a plan how to approach the situation. And that was in somewhere in October.
Okay, that's very fast. And
then
let's jump right away into the plan.
But I want to add on this topic that I see many trans people are hiding themselves in the closet for years, and it really has impact on them mentally. And while just the 4 months are incredibly fast, that was my way of embracing this journey I was just starting on, instead of hiding and playing a role of someone I wasn't.
And why weren't you hiding? What was helping you? What was empowering you to not hide?
I think the being afraid of the darkness I've gone through with the depression and being suicidal was more terrifying than stepping into the world while all those eyes are prying and being judged. It was really terrifying, but it feels like I didn't have an alternative.
No.
Just embrace it and do whatever possible to hopefully someday have this moment. And I think my process is done. Of course, the journey is done. Wow, it will always be a part of my life somewhere.
Such as life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I see the recent challenges with the Trump administration in the Americas, where you need to, requesting an ESTA, you need to tell your sex, when you were born, and I don't want to share that in that way because on my passport is telling something different. So that will have impact on me anyway. And it doesn't matter how far you are in your journey. No. But going back to work, you are. But
I find it fascinating, and I hope the listeners too, that I'm learning so much out of and getting so much out of this conversation. And what I'm curious about, then, okay, there were only 4 months, and I strongly believe, but correct me if I'm wrong, that also the encouragement helps you to move forward, right? Because if your first ring would judge you,
that helps, but there is this 4-month period.
Yeah.
I really wanted that the world look like perceive me like I'm feeling the person that I am. So I'm always trying to explain this by I was full throttle, going as fast as I can to to being perceived as a woman. Yeah, and looking back, it's hilarious almost, because I had short hair and the beard growth and all the stuff. But at that moment, you're overcompensating, only wearing skirts, dresses, etc. Well, you need to understand that the person on the other side, my best friend, my ally, my everything, is losing someone she knew, with which she is married. Years back, she married another person. So she's mourning about, not because I'm really, my heart is still beating, but that man is dead. And I'm now also interfering with topics like makeup and certain clothing that up till that moment was her domain. Just confronting. And sometimes it's easier that something is completely gone than that it is changing over time while you're facing explicitly the things you're losing. So at that moment, in that 4-month period, but also a bit later, she was almost on full break. Can you imagine? I'm full throttle trying and she on break. That doesn't work in a relationship.
No.
And when going in literature, I've read a book, it is a Dutch book, het transgender book. There are stories from all kinds of people, being trans, of course, but it's a really good book for having the conversation towards your relation. So you had an how do you call it? The same point of view and the same starter point, etc. And in this book, and I can really memorize this well, it was said that 3% out of relations of which one partner is going in gender transition survives. 3. That's almost 0.
Wow.
And that got me, that number. And we said to each other, and I think many couples will say that, we will be this 3%. And of course,
boom.
Yeah, we all want that, but it's just 3%, right? So what are your chances? But I think at this moment I can really, I think we are that 3%. And that is only when you're doing this together, you need to get accommodated with each other. So I had to let go of this speed, and she needed to break less, basically. It's the process has so much impact. At first, I thought it was just some medical hormone stuff, hair removal, etc. Clothing, all those obvious things almost. But it's also about your identity. And not just your identity related to your gender, but also you're experiencing life differently. You get in touch with people on another level. Because I was hypervisible, I thought it was a great idea to take people along on this journey to inform them, great awareness. And this vulnerability also led to great conversations with people around me. So a couple of years back, I wasn't telling anything to anyone about my depression, etc. Well, during this process, I realized that being open helps. Because when I'm being open to someone about vulnerable topics, other people's feel it, and they are being more open and vulnerable as well. So you get a conversation on a completely different level, and it had really impact on me. Just being raised rational, being focused on leadership, if you know the disc profiles, I was deep in red. Red. So I was? Yeah, I think I did a test recently, so perhaps I might do that again. But I was there, and it's shaming to say, looking back, but I was on the table just for my own results, not to listen to your opinion. I was listening to what you say to confirm my opinion. And it just tells a lot about me. And it's shaming because during my process, I was more and more focused on topics that are in interpersonality. What is the effect of what I'm doing, I'm saying on you? And how can I take you by the hand on my journey? And then that's a moment you notice that the end result and the process really benefits if you do it together. Not there on the table from an, I think, ego perspective. Ego was really having much impact. Well, not being aware at that moment. But I learned a lot along the way, and I'm still learning. And so it also has some impact on how you're perceiving career. The hyper-commercial sector I'm working in, and how they're that I was sometimes tell that a burnout in the IT is a calculated risk. Well, nobody will say that explicitly, of course. But they're not helping the people within the sector. They're just trying to get to raise earnings, profits, etc. In the end, most of the commercial IT companies. So I have an opinion about that, because I now see there's so much more involved with people, and you can create great results, but you need to get the best out of the people by helping them, facilitating, and not trying to focus only on those results that end up on paper.
Let's get back to that point somewhere later. I really want to invite you to go back to the moment that you, for the first time, went to work. And and then because how did that go? Because you were the 4 months period, and the reason why I'm inviting you to come back to that point is also what can we learn as a society and as an environment to be more open and supportive, and are there some do's and don'ts we can distillate out of it?
Yeah, I think you can. Back then I was well known being a bit of a rebel. So I'm still a rebel, but in another way.
You are a rebel with a cause.
Yeah, the cause changed. But it was rebel and going against streams, and I at some moment I wanted to make this step towards work, and I thought, why not just chasing clothing and going to work like that? But I thought that might not be a good idea, but because people think, there's this rebel again, trying to make a point that men can also wear skirts.
And that actually missed the point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I thought, ask myself, what is the best approach to make this step towards and to take people along? And I was really, really, really aware that this was a terrifying moment. So how to make this easier for me my approach was when people are informed, they are still will be looking at you, but they know what is going on, what the story behind these changes. So I sat down with my manager and some people privately to discuss this topic. And long story short, we made a plan. Basically, at that one moment, I was changing my name within these systems, because within IT, your name is everywhere, in Teams and email and etc. So it really helped me if the name is right, because otherwise it would be hard for me to ask something different from the people. I changed my photo on my profile, and also an introduction post, like when people start within a company, there was an introduction post written.
So you reintroduce yourself?
Reintroduce myself, being Emily. And just coordinated on one day. And on one day, because that's just one moment on one day. And I knew that by my account names and all the technical stuff on the background is going to change, all my devices would failed. So I knew the date that it was being published, and I booked myself a makeup workshop at Mac in Amsterdam, just to have some moment offline, enjoy the moment, while on the background I knew this Niels was coming out. That helped a lot for me to deal with it. And after that, I got a lot of calls and supportive messages.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, but it's in words. Most people are supportive, but it's more than words. In Dutch we say, niet woorden maar daden.
Yes.
And I think that many people are not explicitly not supporting you, but they're dealing with the situation from their own beliefs and how they're raised. And to be honest, many people don't know how to deal with this situation. So that's hard and difficult.
I can imagine. And on the other hand, for you, it's a process.
Yeah.
For the world around us, it's also a process. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I hear again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear again, and I'm happy to hear that, but it sounds that you made a plan, you had some private conversations, one-on-ones or whatever with some people you work with.
Yeah.
Did you feel supported right away? And I have two questions. Were they surprised? And did you feel supported? Because it sounds, if I didn't ask the question, it made me feel like, hey, at least there was some support.
There was some support, and of course you have two sides of things going on. Mm-hmm. And I think the most important things for me were some real tiny things that people around me did to help me. Can you imagine that once that Niels was coming out, I think it was in the working day after, I was impersonally going to the office. I knew what was coming. It was terrifying. You feel, and at this moment I have got a sixth sense for people looking at me. But at some moment, you need to go to the toilet. You don't think about this moment, but at some moment it's no option to not go. And then you have those two doors. Men's bathroom or the women's bathroom. And I really didn't know how to deal with that. Because on the one hand, I wanted to go to the women's bathroom. But I also realized that all these female coworkers just knew one day. And I'm now just entering their private location.
Territory,
yeah. But luckily, there was this there was one female coworker that saw what was going on in my mind, struggling with what to choose. And she walked through this door of her territory, as you call it. And she opened the door and said, welcome. Invited me to enter.
I get goosebumps.
And that
Beautiful.
is just some really funny thing for the person that is helping you to do.
But
it's a big impact. And as an example, I'm repeating over and over again to tell people that sometimes it's not about the big things. But these moments, I can still remember it very well. Especially at the starter of your transition. Everything is scary and you don't dare to ask anyone. And it's in your opinion, it's always wrong.
In an ideal world, how should it be?
I think that's an interesting broad question. I think ideally, we're not judging people on how they feel, how they look like, if you want to wear or behave a certain way, while not negatively impacting the people around you, just live and let live. I think that is what I really would like in this world. And of course, we need to have some agreements on how to deal with each other on a societal level, because otherwise it will be a mess.
When it comes to people and culture or HR, formerly HR, I don't like the word HR myself.
No,
sorry.
it's human capital. They are not resources.
No, so people and culture. When it comes to the people and culture responsibility department, would you recommend that there is, and maybe there is already, but a sort of playbook, like if a scenario, one of our employees goes through this stage, would it be recommended? Because we don't know, we don't know.
No,
what we
you
don't
really,
know.
you really don't know. And every company is, dealing with this situation as it is a completely new situation. And of course, every individual is different. So my needs are not always completely aligned to someone else's needs.
No, we're unique, but we're not alone.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
I think it would help, but that is a more broader discussion when it comes to a DEI as well.
Yes.
That you see all those companies that want to start with it are looking how to deal with those.
And where to start.
Well, there are so many great angles and proven approaches already. And I think this topic has this same issue as well. And sometimes it's not that hard. Get this conversation as an employer through your employee. Because when you're the first one in your organization, you're basically, if you need something, just ask. That sounds great in theory, but
which toilet do I have to go? as if you are. Do you still know it's maybe a little out of the box, but do you still know the commercial? Tina, wie veel kosten die condomen? As if somebody, so you feel ashamed, right? You feel ashamed. So the question, so the person at the counter was then ordering it. Yeah, maybe, and then out loud, Tina, wie veel kosten die condomen? As if you are feel free to ask, as if you are you feel safe enough to ask which toilet. No, of course not.
No, I'm not, and it's not just about all these things like the toilets, and it's also about. If I'm gonna need to see a specialist, I need to write those hours. This is not just one time. sometimes on a weekly basis. It really must impact. And you feel it's really a challenge, and to dare to ask so much. Well, in theory, you have the rights to do so, but it doesn't always feel like that.
Looking back now from here and to the start of your journey, from the transitioning journey, on a well-being spectrum of mental, physical, emotional, what was and still is the most challenging part of the journey?
I think it's a combination. The one I underestimated a lot is the identity angle. That it is so much impact on your whole life, combined with the mental load, because it seems like my journey, but I try to explain this sometimes as I'm driving a car a certain direction because that is where I want to go. But on the back seat, there are so many people. There are people you know, people you know a bit, some people you don't know, but they all have their opinions, and they're all balancing in this car. I've got a steering wheel, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And if they have that much impact on the direction I'm steering, I'm losing my end goal. But on the other hand, if I'm just steering in the direction I want and turn up the radio, something like that, so I don't hear them,
you lose your passengers.
I lose my passengers. So it's my journey, but you're constantly balancing opinions, and especially perspectives and topics that are important for the people in your inner circle. Because I still want to be this 3% for my relationship, for example. And you need to sometimes make sacrifices. But in the end, still without losing my end goal. And sometimes that means slowing down, getting them to getting familiar with a certain situation. Because in my mind, I might be way further.
Yeah, I'm getting to know you a little. You are a fast thinker, fast actor.
I'm a really fast actor. Yeah,
and that's as long as it is about achievement, it helps you. But when it comes to emotions and
yeah, that's right. And in my mind, I'm already way further. And for example, I have had the situation of sex reassignment surgery. It's on my mind for years. But for the people close to me, it's done when it's really done. And then that is the moment they're getting to get familiar with the situation, while when that is part is it is gone, really gone. I'm already looking at the next step. Well, there's other people, not that many people with specific topic, but you get an idea.
It doesn't come easy for you, right? Slowing down.
No, and I have so many ideas, and they're not always related to my personal journey, but there are so many great ideas that sometimes I need to slow myself down, or basically dare to say no, even if topics.
Do you know even to how to spell no?
Yeah,
that's it. All right, got you.
But you need to.
Yeah, you have to.
Otherwise, I know the red markers for my depression, and I've gone through a burnout as well in the past. So know the red flags.
Yeah, and knowing and acting upon it.
Yeah, but when you feel them, of course you can override them, but you know how it will end up.
Yes.
So, especially a while ago, every topic was interesting. But at some moment I decided to more focus on certain topics I care about deeply. And every time someone approaches me, I'm trying to determine if this is contributing to the greater topics I care about, my values, or not. Because I still have 24 hours in a day. And 7 days a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. You come to the conclusion that it's also applicable for you, right?
Yeah, and if you look at my profile and initiatives I'm involved with, you get an idea that it's
no, you're a busy bee.
Absolutely.
If there is one thing you would love people to understand about the process you went through, what would that be? Always difficult question to ask. Just one. I know.
Just one.
Forgive me, but
and I wasn't prepared for this question,
and I didn't prepare. You know me a little.
That's fine. Want to know about? I think the mental impact this has. It is an intense journey. I'm having a full-time job. I'm involved with all kinds of initiatives, as you already mentioned. Yes. And besides that, you're going to see all kinds of specialists. Speech therapy twice or bi-weekly. Hair removal. I've got permanent hair removal in my face over 60 hour-long sessions. Besides the time and it's really intense. Your skin doesn't like so many of those sessions. The hormones. While it has also, of course, a physical effect on your skin, on your fat distribution, on your breasts. Yeah, that's really great. I'm not smiling right now. But it also has mental impact. Well, I think most women can relate to that, but the impact of hormones is way bigger than expected. And something beautiful, but it's related to combined with all these other topics as well. So your whole foundation is shaking. I'm trying to find my place in this world, because when your foundation, your identity is shaking, everything built on top of that
is shaking and wobbly.
Right. And is moving. And that is, I think, the most important aspect of the journey I want to share with people.
Thank you for sharing. This is profound, deep, and trying to grasp. And I can imagine the listener too, what you just mentioned, but the mental process. And I think even for yourself, it's also easy to underestimate the mental shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because how can you imagine the mental shift not going through those profound transitions.
It's way bigger than expected, and it's also that people that know me or know me are following me on certain media and seeing what I'm doing. Always think that I have a bold voice. I dare to say a lot of things related to topics that most people don't dare to talk about publicly. But it doesn't mean I don't have my personal emotions.
Of course you have.
That I don't get touched by certain messages I receive privately. And with privately, I mean on online platforms, but not...
publicly, but via the social media
DM
platform.
and right. And that there are certain moments that I'm crying as well. That you sit down out of all the stuff that is normally going on and the rush, and that. I don't know how you say it in English, but scent is neerdalen. Zand is aan het neerdalen.
Yes, scent is dust is
settling.
Settling, yes.
Right, and that things have impact on you emotionally, and I'm now daring to have emotions and to cry, and looking back, I really missed crying, and that sounds strange, but letting go or opening up for your inner feelings and how important it is. And that's also why I really hate the real men don't cry, because I think this hyper masculinity in today's society, and this of emotion is not from something from today only. It goes way back. I think people are getting separated from their feelings, and that isn't for the good.
No. Wow, what a steep learning curve, this conversation.
Is it?
yeah, it's you are fascinating. Your journey is fascinating, and I can easily go longer and into the conversation. But
of course, we can talk for hours about this.
Let's do a historical question, looking back, and then also share a little bit more and go a little bit about because you're a rebel with a changed cause, but you still are a rebel with a cause.
Absolutely.
And in Dutch we say zendingsdrang, so you have a missionary drive.
Yeah.
And so let's get there in a few moments. But my last question when looking back, what would be the single piece of advice you would give your 5 or 7 year younger you? With all the knowledge and all the whole journey you went through, what would be the one piece of advice you would love to give yourself, the 5 to 7 years younger you?
5 to 6, 7 years younger, or at the age of 5 or 7?
No. The 5 or 7 years younger, or maybe even, okay, that's an interesting one. You were thinking about the 5?
No, yeah, I was at the last one, because I think a couple of weeks ago, I've written a letter, shared it on social media as well, to my younger self, based on the experiences I have now. And it was hard writing that, and memorizing all the things I went through over time. But the thing I wanted to tell my younger self, in essence, is follow your heart. Whatever it is, people will look at you, people will have opinions. You might don't know all the answers yet, but it's okay. I think that is the most important significant advice I would give my younger self?
I literally get goosebumps. Goosebumps. It's a new word. Wow, beautiful. I for sure will find that letter because you shared it. Eh?
I shared it. Yeah, it's I think a couple of days before International Women's Day, but that was the driver. Yeah.
All right. Wow. A rebel with a cause, with a shifted cause, transitioned cause.
Absolutely.
What are you involved in? I saw a lot, but people who don't know you, what are you? Where are you? Where can we find you? But also, what causes are you putting your energy and your drive in?
I'm really involved in a lot of initiatives, so I try to just tell some, and for the other ones, just look me up on LinkedIn or my personal website.
I can imagine tech. Let's start with tech.
Let's start with tech. Besides my career, of course,
yes.
I'm a board member of Dutch Women in Tech, a foundation striving for women that are already working in IT to connect them, because in many cases women working in this really masculine sector are the only ones in the room, on the table, in their teams, etc. And we see that the statistics about people leaving, of women leaving IT in the first 10 years of their career is 52%. So over half of women are leaving IT in the first 10 years, compared to men that is 17%. So it's 3 times as high. So that is one of the causes I'm involved with as a board member of Dutch Women in Tech.
Yeah.
On the other hand, last year I had an idea about creating a gala for women in IT, just for women. So we worked hard. Megan, a good friend at this moment, I didn't know her then, and I created a gala with 100 women that were in a castle in Woerden on the eve of International Women's Day last March.
Beautiful. I saw the pictures, and we will share the URL of the website in the show notes.
Yeah, and interesting to say, because we have organized this in 2.5 months. It was really hard work, and there were luckily some sponsors that stepped up proactively to help us, because, as you can imagine, it's quite costly. And I'm looking now for a new gala next year, but also have some ideas to stripping all the luxury and ambience of this castle, with the dresses and heels and makeup and etc., but still keeping the essence of feeling safe, of connection with each other. So I've got some ideas, and we're working on that, and hopefully somewhere in the end of this year we can organize that. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say for now. And one other thing that's really important, there's multiple documentaries, but one that got my attention was the one of Sunny Bergman, who created a documentary about it. It's called Blue Balls and Other Myths About Being Raped. And there was just one fragment within this documentary about that the teacher is asking children within the classroom that if a girl is dancing or dressing sexy, I'm allowed to touch her. And many of the people, boys, but also girls, said yes. So there was opening my eyes that at this age there's also so much from societal pressures and how we are interacting with each other, that I decided that a book I'm already thinking longer about, that with the essence of consent and all those topics that are involved with how you call it, no, that
Giving permission?
yeah,
No.
giving permission, consent. I think it's really important for people or for children to learn. Always ask, not touching someone without their consent. And this is just about touching, but of course, in the bigger picture, in the more mature version, this is the starter point of unacceptable behavior. And
so you're writing, you're outlining a book.
Yeah, I've outlined a book.
And
I'm now trying to get it funded through crowdfunding.
Oh, cool.
To not just to earn from it, but I want this book to be available to as many children as possible, and all money that goes into this funding will end up in publishing this book and distributing it.
So you have a crowdfunding. All right, that's very interesting, and I think it's the rebel with a meaningful cause when it comes to educating children at the earliest age. What is appropriate behavior? What are the boundaries? And ask.
And it's okay. To say no. Set your own boundaries. You're allowed to do that, and it's even when people around you might think it's strange or the pressure you might experience.
I think we will share the crowdfunding link because I'm a big supporter of educating at the youngest age. I think it's very important and to shift. And shift behavior, right? And,
and we need to do something because the impact of social media, but also the parenting, because most parents have been raised with those, from my perspective, old ideologies. So they're giving this behavior to their children as well, and when both boys and girls having the same feelings, that girls know that in those situations they will be touched, then we're already too late.
I'm looking already forward to your book. It's going to be it's of course, and it should be also distributed at schools. So, let me think along with you how to speak.
Yeah, for now, just get this first.
Yeah, first
Druk.
Yeah. Even in German, I know the name Auflage, but I don't know the English published. No, doesn't matter. We will put it in the show notes, the crowdfund link, and I can imagine someone is listening while commuting, while walking, while going to work, while sporting, and he, or listening and think, this resonates so hard, but I where to start? If it resonates, what can you advise to people when it resonates? And where, because it's all about figuring out. Is there a book, or what helped you on the path to, for instance,
being curious towards yourself, have this mirror in front of yourself, dare to experiment and see how things feel like. And of course, my journey might be much bigger than someone else's journey. It's not always about these immense topics.
No.
But just experiment. And because that is also a topic I care about, are gender norms and how much impact they have. And if you want to live more authentically, start small. ask advice from people around you. And I always call it the mountain in front of you. The mountain, the challenge, seems so high. It's really hard to conquer this mountain. But once you get over this mountain, you look back, the top was way smaller than initially thought. That is how I felt it. And really helps conquering this new mountain or challenge. And get comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Ooh.
And it's not a quote of
No.
I've seen it earlier, so.
Yeah, but
it really helps.
Very powerful. Yeah. Where can people find you? Because I can imagine listening when it's resonating, and I think people will reach out. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I primarily posting on LinkedIn on my profile. So my profile, Emily van Putten, of course, and I think it will be in the show notes as well. And I've got my personal website with some bio stuff and getting in touch if you because I'm speaking as well. So if you if I can contribute to your event or organization talk, feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to have a discussion about that.
Emily, thank you very much for this open conversation. There's so much in it. I really enjoyed it. I hope you too.
I did, yeah.
And thank you very much. Keep going, keep sharing, keep being and becoming you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.